told you that I like to do percents. I like to compare percents. Here I am, I've got 60% and a fraction 2/3. So if I turn this into a percent, I can compare percent to percent. And if you know from your sheet that your teacher gave you, those fractions, decimals, percents that you're supposed to memorize, 2/3, you would know that that's 66.6%, and that's repeating. And, or 66 and 2/3%, 66 and 2/3%. And of course 66% is bigger than 60%. And so we would, that's bigger. So if I didn't know that, I could think back to the model whenever I shaded 2 and left one blank and shaded 2 and left one blank, and whenever I was all done, there were 66 and then 2/3 of a block left over. There's other ways to do it, but it gets into being able to divide by decimals. So really you just need to remember this and go from there. So now I have a decimal and I have a percent. So me, I want 2%. And other people might turn the percent to a decimal. So if I were to turn, if this is a decimal, to turn it into a percent, I would go 2 places to the right, 1, 2, Dr. Pepper, add the 0, add the percent sign. So this is 50%. And then it's real easy to see that that is greater than 5%. If I had taken 5% and turned it into a decimal, I would have gone Dr. Pepper backwards, and it would be 0.05, and that is less than 5/10. So the comparison is this is much greater. 1/8. Now I've got a fraction and I've got a decimal. So I really need to ask myself, I don't want to turn this into a fraction because I'm really not going to be able to compare it. So I want to turn this into a decimal, and 1/8 is one of those that we told you to memorize, and you know that 8 goes to 1,000 by 125, so it equals decimal point 125, 125 thousandths, and or 12.5%, and 125 thousandths is smaller than 135 thousandths, and so that's easy to see now that you have them both as decimals. You can look at the place value, you can look at the tenths, and then the hundredths. This is bigger, and then you have 11 fiftieths or 22 hundredths. So if it's a fraction and a decimal, I need to get them both decimals, because it's not going to help me out much to turn this into a fraction. Actually it would, but that's okay. So take this to 100 times 2 times 2, 22 hundredths, and say that, and as a decimal it'd be 22 hundredths. So in this case they would be exactly the same. So if I would have taken this and said 22 hundredths and then simplified it, I would have gotten 11 fiftieths. So this is where you compare. This is where you go back and forth.